there, Loot and Scooters, Ron here, and welcome back to Dungeon Crawlers Anonymous. Today we're going to be continuing our playthrough of the Hunters AD 2114, and last time we got in a fight with a couple of bandits in the middle of an alleyway in New Jensen. We took care of them fairly quickly, although we spent a lot of time going over the rules. I do hope that was helpful, and I do plan on, as we move forward, I'll continue to give you good information about how the rules work, but I am really hoping that with this video and moving forward, the gameplay will go a little more quickly. You'll be able to see more of the game more quickly, and we can get into kind of the story and what else is going on besides just figuring out the rules of the game. But I did, before we get started today, which we're going to be doing some exploration of these new locations that we've got available. We've got a bunch of cards to interact with and some missions that we can pick up. But I do want to just cover two small things that I got, not necessarily corrections on, but a little bit of clarification on, actually from the designer of the game. Thank you so much, Matus, for commenting on the video. So let's just take a look at those really quick. So the first one was actually just a clarification on something I did take a guess at, but I was correct, and that's just when you're determining who goes first in terms of enemies, remember you look at their health pool to see who gets to go first, whoever has the most health remaining, and if it's a tie, I assumed that the players would just decide, and Matus has commented that that is correct, that the players will get to determine who goes first if it's tied, which I think probably does have some tactical implications. So the other piece of clarification was on turn tracking during the combat. I actually didn't show this at all, and I really should have. So on the baseboard, there's this tracker right here on the right side, and this is actually a turn tracker for when you're in combat. So those tokens that I was using for randomization, they are turn tracking tokens, and Matus did clarify that they start on the one space at the beginning of combat, and then once a character has activated, their token would actually be moved up to the next space. So in this case, the soldier will have gone, but the recon won't have gone just yet. And this is to help you track for when you have missions that have a limited number of turns, such as the mission we just played, which says that if we are defeated if we don't win by the end of turn 5. So that would just help us keep track of how many turns it's been and who actually is activated during the round as well. So make sure you track that. Okay, and with those quick clarifications out of the way, we can get right into playing the game. So if you remember in our last video, we finished that fight and then we basically got all these event cards placed out on the board, and our contact at New Jensen told us about several locations that we should probably go check out in order to kind of kick off our investigation into the cult of the Frozen God. So I focused on just New Jensen right now. El Infierno locations are up here. We'll go there for sure, but we're not going to go there just yet. And we're just going to focus on these right now and get through these ones. So we have 3 different locations that we can follow up on right now. So we have Under the Side, which is where the mercenaries hang out, and a few other folks. We can go there and meet up with the bartender. We've also got the Piggery, which is another kind of club, maybe a little seedier than Under the Side. Although I imagine in this post-impact world, all of the clubs are at least a little seedy. So we've got this one where we can go see what's going on there, and then we have the main square where there are actual sermons being taking place by the Cult of the Frozen God. So we can go see what that's all about. So let's talk about moving around on this sort of world map, for lack of a better term. So I think we've already discussed this a little bit, but just as a refresher, there's 2 types of locations. There are these location cards here, which have this stop sign on them and will tell you the danger of the area. And remember, these skulls is indicative of how far from our base it is, which means how dangerous it is, ranging from 1 to 3. And then underneath, some locations are sites, and New Jensen here has 4 sites currently available to us, which we just talked about. One of them is Under the Side. There's also these other 3. And when you move to these sites, or between these sites, you don't advance the daytime tracker, or the day tracker. It's only when you move from one location to another that you move the day tracker up. So that's really important to keep in mind. You definitely don't want to be nerfing yourself by advancing the day tracker every time you move between these sites, because 1, that's going to make you consume a lot of food, and 2, you're going to run out of time before you're able to actually get everything done. So with that said, I think what we're going to do is just go ahead and go through these locations one by one to kind of see what leads they give us, and then we can start thinking about what we want to do next. So to move from one location to another, we would pick up our Hunter's token and move them to another card. Now, these sites are sites within New Jensen, so there is no day tracker advancement when we move from this card to one of these. So let's just head straight to Under the Side. So anytime you move this hunter's token, you have to roll to see if you have an event. And the type of event card you draw depends on the location or site that you're moving to or from. But it's pretty straightforward. If you are moving between sites or from a site to a location, you roll to see if you have a city event card. If you are moving from location to location, that's when you roll to see if you have one of these events, depending on the zone that you're moving to or to. So if you're leaving New Jensen and heading out into the wild, you're actually going to potentially have a city event on the way out, but on your way back, you may have one of these events. So because we're moving from New Jensen, just the location card, to the site card, we're going to roll to see if we encounter a city event. The roll is very simple. It's just going to be one of these defense die, and if you roll a shield, you're going to have an event, and if you roll a blank, you won't. And these are just 3 sides are shields, 3 sides aren't, so there's basically a 50-50 chance on whether or not you have an event. Okay, so we rolled a shield, which means we are going to have an event. This is our very first move of the game, and let's go ahead and see what happens. So this top card is kind of a cover card. It just covers up whatever the card is underneath it because these are double-sided. So let's go ahead and draw the first one, and we'll see what it is. Dealer. In a dark alley, you notice a stranger. He's leaning on a wrecked motorbike and looking nervously around. The man is wearing a long leather coat that has seen better days, but it must have been elegant a few years ago. The man seems to be half hobo, half hoodlum, with a city folk vibe. He gestures for you to come closer. So we can approach the man or ignore the man. The way these typically work, for the most part, is they are going to have an option, and then you flip the card over and do whatever it says based on your choice. So in this particular case, we're going to either approach the man or we're going to ignore him. So how much trouble do we want to get ourselves in here? Let's go and approach this guy. You know what? What do we have to lose? So I'm going to cover up option B here so we only see what option A is. Upon seeing that you accept his invitation, the man opens his coat. You see tens of multicolored vials hanging inside. I got the best stuff in town. Supplements, steroids, kickers, hallucinogens, a full range of products for an attractive prices. So you can buy the following items from him, one of each type. I could spend 2 fuel cells on some steroids, 2 fuel cells on some fear out, or 2 fuel cells on some antidote. After handing you his wares and meticulously counting the cells, the peddler leaves you hurriedly. He disappears around the corner and you return to your business. Now, I do have 2 fuel cells, but I don't really see any reason to buy any of these things right now. I don't know that I'm going to need anything like this anytime soon. If I had some extra cash, I'm guessing these are cheaper than they would be normally to purchase. But at this point, I just don't think I want to waste my 2 fuel cells on this. So we're just going to go ahead and politely decline, but it's good to know that he had this stuff for sale. Now, you'll remember when we talked about these in the last couple of videos, these event cards can be placed in one of 4 ways, and that determines how you interact with them. If the card is placed on top, as soon as you move to that location, you have to interact with that card. If the card's on the bottom, you may interact with it as long as you're at that location and you choose to do so. Whether the card is face up or face down just simply indicates whether you can pre-read that card before you interact with it. So in this case, since we're moving to under the side here, and we'll look at this location card in just a moment, we're going to go ahead and read card 002A and see what it's all about. The joint under the side is easy to find with all the shouting, cheers, and sounds of a party coming from the inside. Soon you reach a pile of containers connected together and turned into a 2-story pub. On the side of one of the containers there are plastic blinds that constitute the main entrance to this den. Once inside, you notice a short man standing behind the bar. His face is badly scarred. Under a military vest, you see bulging biceps covered with tattooed Satanist symbols and naked women. The man's hair is greasy, hanging around his face in dirty shags. When you look curiously around, the bartender circles the counter and heads quickly toward a neighboring container with a primitive boxing ring. There, an enthusiastic crowd is cheering 2 fighters exchanging blows. It seems the bartender is taking bets, as every now and then people shout names of the boxers. Skinny and Witty Antelope, if your ears don't deceive you. Behind him there is a helper with a barrel full of various items. This must be the pot awaiting any winners. And you notice here at the bottom of the card, there's a couple indicators. 1, 2A means there's going to be some more cards here. And this symbol right here means you're going to move to the next card in order, which is going to be 002B. So let's go ahead and grab that. A few blows later, Witty Antelope hits the floor unconscious, and Old Grant starts paying out the winnings. You wait until some of the patrons leave and ask the bartender what's going on in the town. Why so curious? Are you local or newcomers? You don't seem familiar, and I remember faces well enough. Now we have our first choice in the game. So the way these work is pretty much as you'd expect. You get to choose A, B, or C. You can read them and determine how you want to react, and then based on your choice, you're going to pick one of these cards to go to. So for example, if we say, we're a group of machine hunters from outside the town. We're looking for ammo supplies and food in NJ. We would go to card 007. If instead we said, we're working for the prefect, looking for some news. We can all profit if you help us. We go to 008. And we can say, one question, what are these fights? Anything regular? And then we go to 011, and we don't discard 2B, which means we can answer these other questions after we look at this one. This symbol at the bottom basically means you either keep the card or discard it depending on what your choices are here. So if we choose either of these two, we're going to discard it. But if we pick this one, we're not going to discard it. And looking at all this stuff, I'm not super interested in getting into the boxing ring right now. Although my soldier's pretty good, maybe we do want to check out the boxing ring. Let's ask about that. Let's ask about the boxing ring. You know what? We're here for business, but maybe getting involved with the boxing would be helpful to us. So we're going to ask one question. What are these fights? Anything regular? And so now we're going to go to card 11, and we're not going to discard this 002B. For the moment, we organize matches every couple of days, but I have bigger plans. I hope my small boxing league will one day turn into a real show. Maybe we'll even build an actual arena somewhere on the outskirts of New Jensen. Crowds shouting fighters' names, VIPs on tribunes, and loads of cash, of course. I've heard similar fights are organized in other cities as well. If any of you are interested, I'm always looking for fighters for upcoming matches. I can't offer you much, but if you win, you'll get some stuff from the pot. Check for yourselves. It's a great chance for a quick buck. What do you think? I'll add you to the roster for the moment. Take your time to think it over. So I thought maybe we could bet and make a little money, but we're actually getting involved in the boxing itself, it sounds like. So down here we have some instructions. Under this location, place face down card 6 with this event card tracker A, and place A on the days track 3 days from now. So here's card number 6, and we're going to go ahead and place this face down under the location that we're currently at. Next, we'll go ahead and take these two time trackers and we'll put one on the card itself, locking it, and then we'll put the other over on our day tracker on our baseboard 3 days from now. Well, it's currently day 1, so 3 days from now, 1, 2, 3. We now have two things that are actually going to unlock on day 4, A and C. So now we're going to go ahead and go back to this card 002B and continue our conversation about other things besides the boxing ring. And I think we're going to name drop the prefect because I don't know why we wouldn't. Maybe that'll help this guy help us. So we're working for the prefect, looking for some news. We can all profit if you help us. So then we're going to go ahead and grab card number 8. So you're the prefect's men, you say? Then I guess you can afford to pay for the info I have. We'll chat a little longer once you bring me some parts to assemble a jukebox. So, in this case, we actually have to, our choice is forced based on what we've got in our inventory. So right now, we have to discard this type of component in order to move to card 10. If we don't have that, we leave this card face up on this location. So now we actually need to pay him. Maybe I shouldn't have name dropped the prefect. Maybe he would have been more inclined to work with us without doing that. So now we have to pay him one of these components in order to continue getting information from him. So we'll leave that face up on under the side. So I do want to show you the location card just real quick so you can see what else we can do here. Many of the locations have shops at them. The shops are pretty straightforward. Basically, here is the list of items that are available at this shop, kind of sorted by types. There's gear, accessories, weapons, add-ons, food. You can work here. And then there's essentially 3 columns. And the columns are, the first column here is to buy the blueprint for this item. So if I wanted to buy the blueprint so I could make my own first aid kits, it would cost me 1 fuel cell. The next column here is how much it costs to buy that item there, and the last column is how much you would gain if you sold that item here. So again, if I wanted to buy a first aid kit, that would cost me 4 fuel cells, and if for some reason I was selling a first aid kit here, I would get 2 fuel cells back. So it's important to keep in mind like what items are available at what locations, and it's also important to keep in mind that sometimes these prices fluctuate. So the submachine gun might actually be cheaper somewhere else or more expensive depending on where we go. But anyway, almost all of the locations that we have out right now, I'll have shops on them. At the bottom here, we can trade 1 fuel cell for 1 food. We can also sell food for 1 fuel cell, so that's a nice exchange rate right there. And then we could also actually spend 1 day working. So if we work here, we work for a day. All the characters have to do that, and every character is going to gain 2 fuel cells for working here. So that's one kind of nice way to actually make a little money if you're absolutely poor, which we completely are. We have 1 fuel cell each right now. And I did want to show you here on the this is the player aid. There is a list of all the modules, which are the components that you need for crafting, and this is actually kind of in ascending order of value. So like advanced materials are going to be the rarest and most expensive. Junk's going to be the cheapest. And what we owe them is 1 electronics, which is right here in the middle. So this might take us a while to pay off this debt in order to get that information, but that's going to be a primary thing for me for right now, is because I think he's hiding something, or I think he's got some good information for us, so we're going to be on the lookout for some electronics. Well, now that we've joined an underground boxing ring, we've got a few days to waste before we can actually go get our fight on, so let's go ahead and check out Piggery and see what we've got there. So, just like we did with moving to under the side, because we're moving from a site card to a site card, we need to roll again to see if we have a city event. So let's go ahead and see what happens. Okay, no city event this time because that came up as a blank. So let's just see what's happening at the Piggery. So again, there's a face down card, so we'll immediately interact with it. Piggery. You need little time to find the dive. You end up in front of a signboard with a drawing of an enormous pig. A half-open door is right next to you. Once inside, you're overwhelmed by a horrible stench of patrons and unending screams. Boy, this doesn't sound good. The place is bathed in light coming from all kinds of ancient bulbs and flashing colorful LEDs. You get to the counter and ask for Jim Velasquez. The bartender points at a tall guy sitting over a glass of whiskey and chatting with a pockmarked man. You approach the guy. "What the hell do you want?" asks Jim bluntly after waiting you out for a couple of minutes. His voice reminds you of the sound made by a grinder working through a rod of hardened steel, which is not the voice that I did. "Stanislaw Zyla sent us. He said you might know something about the cult of the frozen god. The prefect wants to get rid of it once and for all, and we are his tool for the job." "Maybe he sent you, or maybe not," says Pockmark thoughtfully, swinging on his bar stool. "Shut it, Mick. Freshman told me yesterday he'd sent some half-wits here. Looks like he's found some real talents." And then we're going to go to card 3B. "Just look at this poor wretch right here." He points at the shortest of you. "You can tell no one pays him for thinking. All looks right for me. They must be from the freshmen." They both start to laugh. These guys are kind of jerks. So we've got some options here. "Hey, pretty face, we didn't come here to be insulted by the likes of you." So we can kind of insult him back. We can drop the prefect's name again, and notice these are 17 option A and 17 option B, and then or we could just go straight to business. Time to do business here. What do you have for us? Okay, name dropping the prefect didn't work out very well for us over at Under the Side, and I don't know that I want to start a fight with these guys because I'm looking to them for help. So maybe I could just go straight to business. So we're going to choose option C. Time to do business here. What do you have for us? So now we're going to go to card 19. "Okay, punks, now listen to me. I've been thinking about all this cold and where it comes from. If someone found the epicenter of this climate change, it could be a valuable clue. At least you'll know where to look further. Luckily for you, I know an interesting place that might turn out helpful. To the northeast, maybe 10 miles from our town, there's an old weather station. I don't know if it still works, but maybe you could make it running again and scan the area. A friend of mine used to work there. He lives near El Infierno now. His name's Jack Reno. He sells guns right behind the old steel works. It's worth a shot to talk to him. Maybe you'll even talk him into guiding you there and helping you out with the weather station." So now we're going to set up 2 location cards. So we're going to set up location 423 with 29 face down over it, and 422 with 80 face down over it. So here's the 2 locations we're adding. We're adding the old steelworks, where Jim's friend works and potentially sells guns, it sounds like. And then we've got the weather station here, and you'll notice the old steelworks is at zone 2, it's danger level 2, and that's the level of event card that we'll draw potentially when we move there, and the weather station's actually at level 3, so it's in the most dangerous zone, so that's pretty interesting. So we'll go ahead and get these added to the map. So here's a look at our world map in total now. So we've just added the old steelworks here with an event on it, and the weather station there very far away. One thing that I do want to point out on some of these event cards is in the upper right corner here is a day range. So this is the days that this card is available. So this card's available between day 2 and day 25. And once day 25 passes, this card, which I'm assuming is that friend that might help us with the weather station, he's going to be gone for whatever reason. So we want to try to do this before then. And you notice there's several of these have those marks on them to kind of limit the availability. Focusing back on new Jensen though, the Piggery here no longer has an event card on it. We've interacted with that and got ourselves some follow-up information, and then we can go shopping here. They sell a few things, a pistol, some food. You can heal here at the Piggery. It costs 1 per hit point to heal, and that is another important note, is that after the combat you don't heal back up to full. So both of our characters are still injured from that combat. Now, the other interesting thing is under the Piggery here is a mission card. So let's just take a look at these really quick. I'm not going to read all these aloud to you because there's a whole bunch of them. We'll just pick and choose a few. But here's some information. So the name of the mission is up here. There's some flavor text, and then what you need to do after you read it to get going on that mission. And this here is like the danger level of the mission on a scale of 1 to 3. So this is a 2. I don't really know what the difference is here, other than just the 2 seems more dangerous, and maybe we want to get more gear before we go investigate this airplane wreck. So I'm going to go ahead and leave this side mission here under the Piggery for now, and hopefully we'll be able to come back, because it does sound pretty interesting. Hopefully we'll be able to come back and take a look at that later. In which case, I think it's time to move over to the main square and see what's going on there. But before we can see what the Cult of the Frozen God is doing, we need to roll and see if we get an event. So let's do that. Okay, we do. We got another shield, so let's see what we got this time. Medicines. While making your way to a toll booth, one of you hears a husky voice right next to your ear. Oh, kind of creepy. You guys look smart. A little alarmed, you turn and see a frail man. Boy, he sounds really pretty serious for being frail. My daughter is really sick. I need your help, please. Something about his voice seems desperate and genuine. So you follow him to a damaged but modest house, and he lets you inside. He meekly motions to a box with some strange-looking vials inside, with writing on the box that looks like Polish. I bought these off a trader who assured me this drug would cure my daughter. But I just want to be certain. I'm scared I'm going to hurt her. Can any of you understand this? After studying the package and the leaflet inside, you can't read a word of it, and you have no idea what medicine this is, if it's a medicine at all. Should you lie to him? This is perfectly safe to give to your daughter, option A, or option B, I'm sorry, I can't read this. I don't know why we would lie about this. Although maybe it could help, we could just assure him that it's okay, but gosh, I think I'm going to go with option B. I just don't think we can lie to him. I'm really worried that we would accidentally cause the death of his daughter. So we're going to tell him, sorry, but I can't read this. His eyes drop to the ground and you feel the disappointment in his voice. Well, it was worth a try anyway. Thank you for your sincerity. I must keep looking. If you encounter anyone that's Polish, please send them here. You feel disappointed that you couldn't help, but who knows what could have happened if you'd lied and he'd given his daughter the drugs. A random character gains 1 morale token. So let's go ahead and determine that. We'll do my favorite way, which is just these turn tracker tokens. We'll just shake these up, and we'll pick one at random. Oh, pick one at random. The soldier. So the soldier gains 1 morale token. Address. In the evening, you go to the main square where followers of Frozen God gather every day. Somehow you find free space as the crowd pushes forward to get closer to the priest. You can barely see the man standing on some platform, his figure towering over the heads of the faithful. You hear only fragments of his speech. Cheers of the crowd and gusts of cold wind chill you to the bones, deafening the priest's words.
And then darkness and the long night took reign. One day after, our frozen lord awoke, opened his eyes, and trembled. He saw through the hearts of the most oppressed, wretched, and luckless people. Let your faces be bathed in the light of the new. Cast away your false idols, for cold is coming. The righteous need not fear of the coming frost.
The rest sounds more or less the same. A couple of minutes later, when you're half frozen, the priest ends his speech. You try to get to him, but it's impossible with so many people. The priest descends his platform, and you no longer see him. At the same time, the crowd slowly dissolves. You won't learn anything more here. Now, remember, it's the middle of summer, and we're like out freezing listening to this guy, so something is going on here for sure. And at the bottom here, it does say we gain a card number 94, and gain means we don't necessarily, well, read it, but we get to keep it. It's going to be something other than one of these kind of event cards. So let's take a look at what 94 is. So card 94 is just a copy of that text that we heard from the priest just now. So there must be some clues here that we need to keep in mind. So we're just gonna tuck this away. I'll put it over by our base, and we can keep it to reference should we need to. That's pretty interesting. I'm interested to see where this goes. Now, then the main square is interesting in that what it sells are actually those modules or components for crafting. So you can see here that they sell junk and batteries, firearms, and electronics, which we need to give to the guy under the side in order to get more information. But those cost 6 fuel cells, and we've only got 2 total, so I don't think we're going to be able to afford that right now. Additionally, there are a number of side quests or missions available for us, probably on some kind of bulletin board that we can pick up and take in order to continue to gain experience, get more loot, and hopefully get powerful enough to be able to start thinking about how we're going to take on this Cult of the Frozen God. So the quests that are available to us are training, clearing the rubble, pump, oil plant in danger, and vehicle breakdown. Finally, the last place we can go in New Jensen is the gun store. The gun store sells guns, but look how expensive they are. Wow, a pistol costs 12, a rifle costs 24. We're not even close to being able to afford some of this stuff. But what is cool is you can see here, it looks like several of the special kinds of ammo, some add-ons, and some other stuff are available here either to purchase or to get the blueprint for, and that's pretty interesting to me. So looking through the missions, I think this training mission seems like a really good one to start with. You're crossing the main square when you notice a huge ad hanging between 2 hovels. Only here, as good as free, training for everyone. Fight like a machine, rule like the prefect, shoot like a pro, limited entries. Intrigued, you follow the signs. So we're going to move to card 502. Close to the square, you find the ruined building housing the training center. Through the open window, you can see a dozen people sitting in seats akin to dentist chairs. They are connected to a multiple of cables and tubes of different colors. Once you get inside, you meet a secretary. An old barrel covered with a hardboard acts as her desk. Ladies and gentlemen, are you here to train? Do you wish to become true warriors? Thanks to a unique mixture of chemical stimulants and dedicated software, we can shorten a year worth of training to just 1 day. You won't find something like this anywhere else. Only in our center. The whole course lasts for 24 hours and costs 1, this should be fuel cell. Would you like to enter? So we have 2 choices. 1, missing such an opportunity would be a sin. Everyone discards 1 fuel cell. And then here you can see the days are going to go up by 1, and we're going to move to card 503. Or we can choose not to interact with this, but we'll leave it face up and we could come back later. Now I'm feeling up for this. I feel like spending a little money to hopefully get an easy path to some training. What could possibly go wrong? This seems very sterile. Everything seems perfect. So every character is going to go ahead and pay their 1 fuel cell that they've got, and then we're going to move forward 1 day and move to card 503. So every time you're required to move forward today, which is either going to be through doing those missions and side quests and event card stuff, or it's going to be through moving, you're going to simply move this token up 1, and then you're going to go through and see if there's any other tokens you need to move. For example, if we were building something, which we'll talk about more once we actually get enough components to craft something, our construction marker would move 1 day closer to being completed. And then the only other thing that you need to keep in mind is every time a day passes, every single time, every character needs to spend 1 food in order to eat, to stay alive. If they can't spend a food, they lose 1 health instead. Really bad. So always make sure you have a good, healthy supply of food. Now, our soldier started with 2, and our recon started with 3, so okay, but honestly, this already brings us down low enough that I'm getting a little concerned. I think this is going to be the primary kind of restrictor for us as we go out on an adventure. We always got to make sure we have food. You pay your tuition and sit on free armchairs. A trained professional gives you a drip from a huge container full of some reddish liquid and hooks your heads up with cables to the central unit. You fall asleep. Oh boy, I didn't really think that's what this was. We're kind of jacking into the Matrix or something here. So it says roll 1d6 and check the result below. So I'm not going to look at what the results are. We're just going to roll a d6 and see what happens first. So I've got my my weapon attack die here. All right, we got a 3. Let's hope that's not too bad. All right, you are terribly exhausted after the training. You could barely stand up, but it seems this whole thing was successful. Each participant gained 6 experience points and poison. Okay. Now remember, in this game, just like with your attack rolls, a 1 is really good and a 6 is really bad. So 6 here, we'd have the worst response. We'd get only 2 experience points and some drama happens. We got 6, which is great, but we did get poisoned, which is really bad. And in this case here, each participant gains 4 experience points. So just an interesting thing. But now we're going to go ahead and get rid of this, and we've done our training. So we got some free XP, which is, hey, that's good. That's going to get us closer to leveling up. Now, that was good and bad. 6 XP is great. It's a good chunk of movement towards our first level up. We need 20 experience points total. We got 1 from that first combat, so both of our characters are at 7, which is great. 7 out of 20 is not bad, but they both got poisoned. And poison in this game is not good. I mean, it's never good, but it's really bad in Hunters. So when you're poisoned, every time the day tracker goes up, you're going to lose 1 health. Even if you eat food, you're going to lose 1 hit point. If you don't spend food, you're going to lose 2. Even if this damage causes you to go unconscious, you remain poisoned and will continue to be poisoned if you get brought back up above 0 hit points. The only way to get rid of poison is to either visit a specialist or to, which we can't, none of our locations have a healing person, or that removes poison anyway, or we can use one of these antidotes, which right now costs 3 fuel cells, and we have 0. So both of our characters are going to be stuck with these poison tokens until we can figure out how to get rid of them. That is not good news. Okay, I was trying to figure out how we're going to solve this poison problem, and I think what we need to do is figure out how to get an antidote. And I was looking at the antidote token, and it's got this multi-use symbol on it, which is really cool. Basically what this means is once we buy this, we can use it twice. We can use it once, and when we do, we discard a poison token, and then we flip it over, and you see here now it's got 1 use remaining. So we'd go ahead and we could use it a second time, get rid of the other poison counter, and get rid of the antidote. So it's not going to cost us 3 per character to cure that poison, but it is going to cost us 3 to get this antidote. So we're going to have to figure out how to make some money. And I think what I've determined is we're going to have to do a little bit of risk in order to make some cash and buy that antidote. So we're going to do this quest, Clearing the Rubble. Anyone with a good pair of hands or at least working mechanical replacements for ones may come to the town governor to participate in public works. The prefect has decided to help the inhabitants in making the main road passable again. The public works will entail filling in a huge crevice dividing the road into 2 parts. Any willing people are asked to come to the main square this evening. Free chow guaranteed. Nick Bunkard on behalf of the prefect of New Jensen. So it says here we're going to place number 407, or under location 407, we're going to place this card face down, 514. That's going to be going and doing this Clearing the Rubble mission. And it says here the work will probably take 2 days, so that's letting us know that's how much food we should have stockpiled. And then each character is going to gain 6 energy cells and 2 food. So we've still got 4 food left, so we should be able to feed ourselves. We are going to take some damage from our poison, but it won't kill either of us, so I'm really hoping that Clearing the Rubble works out well for us. So let's go ahead and place this card, and then we're just going to interact with it, and we'll see what happens. So this is one of the cards in the game that has an errata on it. This says 514, but really it should be 544. When you get your copy of the Hunters, either, there'll be an errata sheet that's in there, and it will have this correction, but you can also check on Board Game Geek. There's a really great FAQ and errata page, as well as an errata that's available to download, so you can actually reprint the cards if you want to. But anyway, we're supposed to put 544, not 514. And when we interact with that, it just says roll 1d6 and check the result. So let's see how that goes. Okay, so we rolled a 2, so I think that's probably going to be pretty good. Let's check here. All went well. Exhausted but well fed and satisfied, you take 6 cells each from the town of Thistle. Each, I didn't realize this was each. I thought that was going to be total. That's awesome. Okay, so we got 6 cells each and presumably 2 food each, but 2 days, 2 pass. So I'm going to go ahead and move our day tracker up 2, and we'll update our health and stuff, and then we'll grab some of these rewards. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and move the day up 1, and then we'll spend 2 food each, or 1 food each for that, and then our health is going to go down 1 each because of the poison, which is going to put the soldier at 4, and the recon is now at 3. So they're not doing great. Everybody's been a little wounded here. And then we're going to actually move the day track up 1 more time. And now when it does this, it reaches these 2 tokens, which means they get removed from the day tracker and they get removed from these cards. So now we can go check out that sermon in El Infierno, and we can go check out the boxing ring over at Under the Side and maybe do some actions there. So the world's continuing to open up to us. Finally, we're going to spend 2 more food, our last 2 food, to go ahead and feed ourselves during the day. And then we're going to take 1 more damage each, bringing the soldier to 2 and the recon to 1. So everybody's looking a little wounded, but we did get 6 fuel cells each as well as 2 food each. So we're looking really good right now. Now this feels very wealthy. I don't have no idea if it really is, but it's definitely going to be enough for us to get that antidote and take care of that problem. Plus we've got some food to go adventuring, and I have a few ideas about what I might want to do next just with some of this money. But before we do anything else, I'm going to move over to the Piggery here. Okay, but before we can buy that antidote, we do need to roll and see if we have an encounter. And we do have an encounter, so we're going to go ahead and draw the top card off of this deck. These encounters do seem to happen fairly frequently. Heavy Package. The first rays of the morning sun warm your faces, and the streets are already busy. You notice a group of people trying to pull a huge, tightly wrapped package up to the window on the 2nd floor. It looks like this task is far beyond their capabilities despite all their shouts and cries of encouragement. Time and again, they let the package rest on the ground and gather their strength for another attempt. They try once again and fail before they give up and sit resigned on the ground. Okay, so we can approach them and offer to help, or we can move along. No one ever helps you for free. Well, you know, it's a weakness of mine, and maybe it's the most boring way to play these games, although I'm sure, I don't know. I like being altruistic. I like being helpful. I like playing these games, you know, kind of in like, hey, let's make this place better, you know. What can I lose personally? So let's try to help them out and see what happens. What can I lose is a very bad question to ask the game to answer. With your help, the men easily manage to pull the package to the apartment upstairs. The strangers turn out to be a family. They have just arrived to the town from some remote settlement. Rick, the father, has a quite unique profession considering these brutal times. He is a musician. The heavy piece of furniture you've been helping to pull up is actually a piano found in some forgotten place. Rick is planning to open a music school, the very first one since the time of the cataclysm. "Thank you for all the help," Rick says. "I dream about the old days, you know. Even if this school goes bankrupt in a month, it'll be worth spending everything I've got on it. I promised my family that when we found a safe place, we would settle down and make a life for ourselves." As you turn to leave, Rick reaches into a nearby box, pulls out a cloth-wrapped bundle, and hands it to you. "Here," he says, "take it. Now I won't need it anymore. It's time these hands went back to making music." And he gave us a submachine gun. Oh my god. Whoa, okay, that was amazing. That was the right choice. See, doing good always pays off. I'm sure that anytime you do good in this game, you get free guns. That's amazing. Here's that submachine gun, by the way. This thing is so cool. So it is a ranged weapon, obviously. We can't use it in melee at all. It rolls 4 dice with a +1 to the target number at range 1, and 3 dice with a 0 to the target number at range 2, which is pretty good. 4 dice at +1, that's pretty awesome. And it has the full auto ability, which you may remember from a previous video we discussed. You can actually shoot 2 targets in the same space with this full auto, which is really cool. So this thing's awesome. I'm definitely going to give this to my recon, and I'm even considering maybe even selling my pistol to make a little money. But this was awesome. I'm really glad we had this event. And we're going to buy 1 antidote. So that's here's the antidote token. We're going to spend 3 fuel cells total on that. And then I will go ahead and take that antidote, and then I'm just going to use it twice. So remember, this thing can be used twice here. So once to get rid of the poison for the soldier, and then another time to get rid of the poison for the recon. And that's gone. But I'm feeling good about that. No longer poisoned, and we still have a pretty good sum of cash left over to do some interesting stuff with. All right, so I had some cool ideas. I was thinking about going over here to the, to El Infierno, to the armory, buying the blueprint to make scrap armor, and then showing you how all that stuff works, which I really want to do, but it's totally not affordable yet because we have to pay $3 just for the blueprint, and then I checked the blueprint card, and you can actually see right here, the scrap armor costs 6 junk to craft 1, and junk right now, the only place we can get it 2 places, actually, here as well as over in the tech square, and it costs 2 a piece, so that's $12 and plus 3 for the thing, and we can't afford any of that stuff, so we're not going to start crafting just yet. But I do think what I'm going to do, I don't know if this is the right play or not, but I think I'm going to go ahead and spend I'm going to head back over to the main square, which of course means we need to roll again to see if we have another event, and we do not. And I'm going to buy some electronics for 6. So that's going to really hinder us. That's half of our winnings from our mission we just did. But once we have the electronics, we can actually head over here to under the side, which means we need to make another event roll to see if we have an event, and we do not. And we can pay for the electronics here to go ahead and do option A on under the side to continue to get information here from the bartender. So we discard that electronic to help him refix his jukebox, and now we're going to grab card 10, and hopefully that was worth it. Jukebox. Great, now I can finally start my jukebox. Old Grant walks to the jukebox standing in the corner and manipulates it for a moment. After some time, he turns it on and starts humming to the song coming from the improvised speakers. Good. Now your reward. Come with me to the back. Too many curious ears around here. You follow him to the next container. A small storage and Grant's office have been set up here. Listen to me carefully, 'cause I won't say this twice. There's this friend of mine. Name is Red Jack. He usually roams the area around the machinery in the outskirts to the west. Not so long ago, he mentioned he'd got some job to do for the frozen ones. He didn't want to say what he meant, but I think he might change his mind if you're willing to pay. It's best to wait for him around dawn at the parking lot. That's when he clears caravans of pack machines for Silex. Mention my name when you meet him. It should help. Okay, so we need to remember Old Grant, and we'll go meet his friend, Red Jack. So we're going to set up location card 420, and then under it we're going to put face down card number 14. So now we have another lead to follow up on. Okay, so I've gone ahead and put the parking lot up here. It's still part of New Jensen, and I don't want to get too confusing, but you can see how this game can start to really take up table space with these locations. And I do kind of want to see if I can figure out maybe a little more space conscious way to store things, maybe cards on top of each other or something like that, and I'll figure out some way. But for right now, that parking lot's over here, and we have this card face down under it. Now at the parking lot, we can buy some more modules. It's a slightly different list of what's for sale compared to the main square. But other than that, yeah, there's nothing really super interesting. But I'm thinking, why not? Let's go over there and meet him. Now, he said we need to pay. I've only got 3 fuel cells. We'll see. Hopefully he'll give us a chance to come back if we don't have the money for him right away. But you know what? Before we do that, I just remembered we can go boxing, and I want to do that. I want to see what the boxing's all about. So let's go ahead and encounter this card right here, number 6. After a short warm-up in the joint, one of you walks in the center of the improvised boxing ring. The opponent turns out to be a short Latino guy looking somewhat scared. He won't be a challenging opponent. A crowd of sweating patrons is gathered around, roaring and banging on the steel walls of the container with their fists. The sound is deafening, leaving you nearly stunned. So the opponent has 0 strength, and we need to set up number 92, which is the boxing match rules. Okay, and then we've got some options. Do we win the fight? Do we win the fight and have a story token here, which we don't have? If we lose, we can come back and fight another time. So let's go ahead and grab this card 92. We'll leave this right here kind of in the center. Okay, so here's the boxing match rules. This is so cool. This is just one of the event cards, has rules for a boxing match in it. That's awesome. Each fight lasts 3 rounds. Each round, both opponents roll a d3 and add their result to their strength. First fighter to win 2 rounds wins the fight. If a given round ends in a draw, after adding melee and dice result together, the fighter who rolled higher wins, and if there's still a draw, we re-roll that d3. So let's go ahead and do this real quick. We're just going to roll opposing D3s and see what happens. Okay, so our opponent has a strength of 0, and we're going to go ahead and have the soldier fight, which he has a strength of 2. So he's going to be rolling D3 plus 2, and our opponent here is going to be rolling D3 plus 0. I went ahead and grabbed some other dice for this just to make it a little easier to see. So we'll go ahead and say that this metal dice here is going to be our soldier, and this beautiful pink and purple die is going to be our opponent. So, and then remember, it's going to be a D3 is the result here, so we're going to be dividing whatever it is by 2. So let's go ahead and roll our first roll and see what happens. So here's our first fight. Okay, so we got a 1 and he got a 3. So we got a 1 and he got a 2. And we add our strength, so our strength is 2, so we got a total of 3. He adds his strength, which is 0, so he does not win. So we have 1 win currently. I'm feeling good about this. Come on, soldier. Okay, all right, not so great. Okay, he got a 3, plus 0 is 3. We got a 1 again. I'm upset with this dice. We got a 1 again, so plus 2. That's going to be a total of 3. So it's a tie, but whoever rolled highest wins. So in which case, this is going to go to our opponent. And now we're down to the last fight. Okay, all right. We got a 3 and he got a 2. So we got a 3, which is a 2. He got a 2, which is a 1. So 1 plus 0 is 1, and 2 plus 2 is 4. So yeah, we've knocked him out. Good job, soldier. You managed to pull that thing through. I didn't know if this could roll more different than a 1, so I'm really happy to see that. Then it says right here, if we win this fight, go to card number 12. What a fight! The moment I saw his limp body, I knew you'd make a pro. Grant retrieves a few coils of wires and some equipment from a barrel. Here's your well-earned reward. If you ever wish to fight again, come back in 3 days. You will fight in pairs, and I'll make sure you face better opponents, and the reward will be better too. He pats you on the back with a broad smile. So under this location, we're going to place the card 300 with the D tracker, and then we're going to place the D tracker on the day's track 3 days from now. This character, so just the soldier, gains 3 modules. He gets 1 junk, 1 electronics, perfect. Maybe we should have done the boxing match first because that would have let us pay him off. But you know what? It's okay because we can use this for other things. And 1 optics. So that's some really good stuff. Let me grab all that and we'll get the card set up. So now we've got card 300 here with the D day tracker on here, and then I've added the D to our baseboard 3 days from now, and we are going to be gathering these 3 components. Now the soldier has them, but this is a fully cooperative game. There's no real negative to sharing everything, so your characters aren't going to try to hoard stuff, but he's the one who's holding it right now. He can keep it on his person. If we go back to the base at some point, he can store it there. But for right now, I'm just going to go ahead and put the, we've got some junk, electronics, and optics, and we're going to put these on the soldier's character sheet. All right, so next we're going to move over to the parking lot, which of course means we need to make 1 more event roll. And we did get an event. Graham. A bearded, unnaturally tall man with bare feet and rags on his back has been following you for a while. When you're walking through a more desolate part of the town, he runs up to you and shouts in a raspy voice, "Hello there, strangers. Is it polite to run from tall Graham? I just need a few minutes of your time, that's all." Okay, do we want to stop or do we want to try to shake him off? Let's be polite. Come on, what could possibly... Last time we got a free submachine gun. Let's be polite to Graham and see what happens.
"Wise, very wise of you,"
says Graham again.
"I am, well, you could say that I'm a local manager. People around here trust me more than they trust the prefect's men, so I organize day-to-day life of people in the neighboring blocks. At this point, we're trying to dig a tunnel between 2 buildings. It's meant to be an escape route in case of emergency, so we need the help of people from outside. People just like you. Local workers, or the prefect's men don't need to know everything, right? It shouldn't be more than 1 day, and we could offer you decent wages. What do you think about 3 cells for each of you?"
So it says here we have a choice. We can either take the offer, which causes us to spend a day, and we're going to gain 1 experience point and 3 fuel cells, or if we're not interested, we can just leave. This is kind of a tough choice because I don't know that there's any long-term repercussions here. This sounds super shady, and like I don't know that I actually want to do it, but man, getting free experience point and fuel cells sounds pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and do this. So I'm going to spend 1 day. We'll just move the day tracker up 1. So now we're on day 5. And then we're going to go ahead and spend 1 food each from the from the characters, and then we're going to gain 1 experience point and 3 fuel cells each, and then we'll carry on to the parking lot, and we're going to go see if we can meet gosh, what was his name? I already forgot. Red Jack. It's dawn. You wait for Red Jack. You've taken a position on a roof with a good view over the whole parking lot. The caravans slowly gather, then one by one leave the town through the main road leading west. Where are they headed? Infierno? Maybe further. When you see the name Silex written in blue on the sides of a few machines, you approach them. Unfortunately, you're out of luck. A short conversation with the guards, and it turns out that Red Jack went yesterday with the first transport to the dam. He probably won't be back for a week. If you really want to wait, it's best to look for him in the Piggery in a couple of days. So we could either wait for Red Jack's return. We could put under 406 the Piggery. We could put card 6 with A, and then A is on 5 days from now. Or we can go to the dam and look for Red Jack, in which case we'd set up 421 and under that face down put number 16. So I think this is actually a really cool spot where you guys can make a decision. So I'm gonna go ahead and call the video here and let you guys come up with what we do next. Should we keep kind of exploring town? Maybe do a side mission or something like that while we wait for Red Jack to return? Or should we head on out and go look for Red Jack out here at location 421, which we don't know what it is. It's probably the dam. And if we do this, by the way, I'll probably go get a little bit of healing first, so we're not going to be going in completely wounded, because we are pretty wounded. But why don't you guys decide? Let me know in the comments what you think we should do. If you think we should wait, maybe build up around town, try to do a side quest, or if we should head to the dam and go see if we can find him straight on, because seems like our best lead so far. Hey guys, just want to say thanks so much for stopping by and watching the video. I hope you enjoyed this look at the sort of location exploration aspect of the game. I think this is so cool, and while the combat's really fun and I like tactical combat and I think it's going to be really enjoyable to get good at and watch our characters grow, I think this kind of aspect of like moving around these different locations, encountering different cards, and rolling dice to see what might happen. We won the fight, but what would have happened if we lost? Or, maybe we wouldn't have gotten poisoned and I wouldn't have had to go and do all that other stuff. Or, I really do feel like the game's kind of starting to open up already in terms of options and what's going to happen. And I really can't wait to see what else is out there. We've only barely touched the surface. But I hope this was, both useful to you in terms of kind of understanding how this plays and how to actually play this section, but also I'm trying to focus a little less on rules moving forward and a little more just on enjoying the game and getting out there and seeing what it has to offer. So anyway, guys, I really hope you're enjoying this playthrough of the Hunters. I'm having a blast. If you're liking it, go ahead and give the video a like. That honestly, it makes me feel good. It makes me excited to know that you guys are out there and enjoying the video. If you want to see more content like this for this game, go ahead and hit subscribe. I'm planning on doing at least a few more videos. I don't know how far we're going to go in this campaign. As long as there's interest, I'll keep playing, probably. Although I am starting to think about what maybe we'll be playing next on the channel. Something, if you're interested, if there are certain things that you'd love to see, maybe leave a comment, let me know. Leave a comment anyway. I'd love to engage. I try to answer every comment if I can. I really appreciate the enthusiasm and excitement that I've seen so far on the channel. The positivity has been a really awesome boost for me, as I really don't know what I'm doing yet. I'm just getting into this whole thing, but it's been really fun so far, and I just hope you guys are enjoying the videos. So give me a like, give me a comment, hit the subscribe button if you need more, if you want to, get access to my videos right as they come online. Otherwise, yeah, thanks so much for watching, and as always, my friends, may your loot deck draws be legendary.